Hi, this is the FilmCrop channel. Today we will talk about the 2018 thriller drama called The Room. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. A couple in love, Kate and artist Matt, bought a house. Having entered it, they begin repairs. Kate finds a dead bird. She buries her in the yard. But after a moment, the bird disappears. Matt finds a hole in the wallpaper. There is a secret door behind the hole. In the discarded old things, he finds the key. The door opens. Immediately, electricity drops begin in the house. In the evening they drink wine by the fireplace. Terrible sounds are heard around the house. But the couple doesn't pay attention. The next day Matt goes to the door again. Electricity surges begin again. Kate calls an electrician. He is very surprised that someone bought this house after all. The previous owners of the house were killed right inside the estate. Matt searches the internet for information. Indeed, a married couple was killed by an unknown man. Matt tries to draw at night and drinks. He accidentally walks into that room. All he needs now is another bottle. A moment later, she is right in front of him. The next morning, Kate comes into the room and looks for Matt. He runs around it with a crazy look, surrounded by paintings. All the paintings are originals. Matt asks Kate to make any wish she would like. The spouse makes $1,000. A minute later Matt finds them. But Kate is skeptical about this finding. Then the husband asks her to make $1 million. Like last time, they immediately appear on the floor. Now Kate is really scared. Matt calms her down. The husband suggests simply taking advantage of the opportunity. And they do it. Now their whole house is full of money, paintings and champagne. Kate quits her job. There is no limit to happiness. They have everything to do about it. Beautiful outfits, caviar for dinner, precious stones in huge quantities. Kate is trying to figure out how this room is arranged after all. But this is a big mystery not only for them, but for the whole world. After a while, it starts to bother the girl. Things don't bring any pleasure, it's just a fiction. Then Matt gives her a surprise. Baby cot. But Kate is afraid. She has already had 2 pregnancies. And both failed. Matt is going for a ride in the car. Returning home, he finds Kate. But she's not alone. There's a child with her. Matt is furious. Why did she wish for a child at the room? You can't leave the baby. If they have a child, it will be in a natural way. Together they carry him to the room. But both are hesitant to say anything for the disappearance of the baby. After all, they dream so much about the baby. In one of the newspaper clippings, Matt finds a clue. The killer of the previous family said that the room forced him to do it. He's in a psychiatric hospital somewhere. The man goes in search of him. There is only one person without a name in the clinic. Pretending to be a reporter, Matt gets inside. A man with no name was waiting for him. The killer already knows everything that's going on in their house. He advises you to leave the estate immediately. A strange thing happens on the way home. Matt has to pay and looks in his pocket. But it's empty. The dollars hidden by the room turned into dust. Matt is conducting experiments. He takes things out of the room outside the house. As soon as a thing just a little bit out of the territory, it aged and turned into dust. Kate goes for a walk with her baby. Matt warns her and asks her not to go anywhere. The girl doesn't listen to him. After a couple of minutes, the baby turns into a teenager. Matt tells his wife his observations, and they become new rules. Time passes. Kate is engaged in the education of her son. He was named Shane. His parents explained his ban on leaving the house with a serious illness. Shane lives locked up. Looking longingly out of the window at the world. Matt orders himself a gun and trains in shooting to somehow forget himself. Kate plays the piano in her free time. At this time, Shane puts his hand outside. His mother manages to save him and drag him into the house. After that, she boards up all the windows with boards. The child grows up very naughty and strange. One day, Shane walks into his father's room while he's gone. But when Matt suddenly returns, Shane breaks the glass ball in his hands out of fright. Matt chases him out of the room. The man does not perceive Shane as his son. He is convinced that the child is as much a fiction as all the things from the room. That night, Shane wanders around the house with a flashlight. The next morning, Matt discovers a new glass ball next to him on the floor. He gets scared and runs to Kate. But it's not her doing. Together with Kate, they enter the room. What they see shocks them. He turned the room into that glass ball. A forest with a snowman in the middle and falling snow all around. Matt is frightened by this sight and locks the room with a key. He's afraid of Shane. After all, a child can make a wish for anything. He will be offended by his parents, think about the dragon, and he will appear. Someone is calling the home phone. Shane picks up the phone. Matt immediately snatches the phone from him. Their son is forbidden to answer calls. This is an unnamed killer from a mental hospital. He asks Matt about the baby. The father admits that his son is the creation of the room. The unknown tells Matt a secret. In order for a creation to exist outside the room, it must kill its creator. In other words, if Shane kills Kate, he can live out of the house. Similarly, it happened with him. His parents made a wish for him at the room. But they wanted a full and eventful life for him. Therefore, they asked the young man to kill them. Kate overhears this conversation and runs away from home from shock. Matt goes crazy and ruins his room. Shane is ruining everything in the house at this time. Kate at this time almost crashes in the car. Tension is in the air. Matt tells the whole truth to Shane. The man was clearly distraught. Matt brought Shane to the door to make sure of his words. And he almost kills his son. But the child cries and runs away to his room. Matt calms down and asks him for forgiveness. They reconcile. A father reads a fairy tale to his son, and they fall asleep. Kate returns at night. After an awkward conversation, passion flares up in them. The son sees all this through a crack in his door. In the morning, he steals the key to the front door from his father. He still wanted to see what would happen. He's not a teenager anymore. Shane is a young man. And he set a trap for the parents. Stole Matt's gun. The young man is outraged by the betrayal of his family and lies about a non-existent disease. Kate manages to calm him down. Matt grabs the gun from him and they start fighting on the floor. Kate loses consciousness. When she wakes up, Matt reveals that Shane is dead. During their struggle, he got shot. Matt carried him outside. Now their fake son is just a handful of dust scattered in the wind. Kate can't hold back her tears. Matt calms his wife down and brings her into the house. That's how it was supposed to happen. But all this turns out to be a lie. Matt wakes up on the floor. There's no one around. As well as the key to the room. He searches for a hammer and breaks the wall leading into the room. Yes, Shane turned out to be a smart kid. He created a world in the room where events develop differently. But Kate is not stupid either. The Matt she sees is doing something uncharacteristic of himself. Biting the ice. Only Shane did that. Shane turned himself into a copy of Matt. Meanwhile, the real Matt breaks through the wall into the room. He finds himself in a huge forest with a snowman that Shane used to make. Kate finally recognizes the fake Matt as the cunning Shane. He's trying to rape her. The real Matt finds this house in the woods and comes to the rescue. He will have to fight with a copy of himself and a copy of his house. It doesn't happen every day, you must agree. Kate tries to get out of the room, but bumps into two identical Matts. And both ask to go with him. The real Matt guesses to say a word that only the two of them know. It turns out to be the word B. It would seem that they are saved. But Shane won't let them out. The spawn of a room controls the same room and plays with its parents. However, Matt goes for a trick. He creates copies of himself and Kate and gives them to Shane to die. Finally they manage to escape. Now it remains to escape from the real house. Shane is chasing them. Matt pulls off a clever trick. He lets Shane attack him and leaves the door open. Together they fly out into the street. And Kate closes the door to the house. Now we just have to wait. Before their eyes, he turns into an old man. He lies down on the floor, turns into dust and disappears. It's really over now. A month later. Matt brings coffee to the motel where he and Kate are staying. But she's too shocked to open the door. Her pregnancy test is positive. They're having a baby. Thanks to everyone who listened to the end. If you like the new format, like it and write about your impressions in the comments. Bye.